Hello and welcome back to WagerTalk TV. This is First Pitch. I'm your host, Andrew McInnis, joined by Dave Cokin, Tony Finn, and Mid-Major Matt. Guys, baseball is back, at least American baseball. Dave and I have been doing the Korean baseball and having some fun with it. I know Mid-Major Matt was doing some DFS stuff with it, but the big leagues are back, to say the least. Going to go around the horn, get some thoughts. Dave, I saw a great tweet from you, quite a bit of a passionate tweet earlier today. You're pretty fired up. How you doing?
Well, I'm thrilled to have baseball back, and not as a bettor, as a fan. I love the game, always have. Baseball and hockey are my two favorite games to watch, and I'm going to have both at the same time, it would appear, which is like Christmas in late July and early August. It's good to have the game back, and hopefully they'll have few snags and can get this in, get the 60-game sprint going, and hopefully get to the finish line without any obstacles.
Tony, I've seen you have a lot of fun on the NBA Tip-Off Show. We've waited long enough to see what would happen and when we'd see baseball again. We have it this evening. How you feeling?
I feel great. It's like Dave. I'm a little. I'm not saying Dave's old school, but I'm old school.
Oh, I am old school. Make no mistake about that.
Yeah.
I'm old, Tony. I'm old everything.
Well, I'm with you right there, Dave. So at least that's what my wife tells me. Old in so many ways that she doesn't like. Too bad. Baseball's back, and I'm on a flashback, guys. When I was a kid, and Dave can relate to this. I know you guys are a lot younger, but I used to when I was a kid, I had a bedtime. And I would hide my little transistor radio under my ear on the pillow and listen to the local broadcasts of wherever I lived. I grew up in Kansas City, wherever the Royals were. Lou Piniella. That's when Lou Piniella was Rookie of the Year in '69. So there's the aging me right there. I'm really excited for baseball. I love it. It is my national pastime.
I can't really relate to that because my parents basically gave up on bedtimes with me at a pretty early age. I was a horrible sleeper, and I started watching Johnny Carson when I was like 8 years old. I didn't get the jokes, but I was still watching. I
wasn't born yet when Johnny had already retired by the time I'd born.
Really? Oh, yeah, bullshit.
Mid-Major Matt.
Hey, I just won the award. I won the award for first profanity on the show. Cool.
And with probably plenty more to come. Definitely. Yes. Matt, we worked together at Sports Memo. We talked together on Twitter. Excited to do a show. Excited to work with all of you. How are you feeling? Got some packages up at Sports Memo right now. What's the plan for tonight? You ready to go?
Yeah, ready for tonight. I'm also interested to see if the commissioner is going to add any extra rules tonight. I know we're trying to add more playoff teams right before an opening night. So let's see what else we can do a couple hours before first pitch.
Something before we get into the games, and we're definitely going to talk about these two games, and then tomorrow we'll cover every game. Let's talk a little bit about the rule changes and if we believe they'll have a significant impact on how the game should be bet. So let's begin with the 3-pitcher minimum, which, for those who aren't familiar with it, if you bring in a pitcher now, if he pitches to one batter and the inning ends, you can take him out next inning. But if you bring him in, for instance, with one out, if it's a lefty specialist, for instance, he's got to face 3 batters, and it's going to be really interesting to see how managers adapt to this. I think it's going to be a problem for them, to tell you the truth, and I think they're going to be reluctant to bring in that lefty specialist if, for instance, the next couple hitters are right-handed. I mean, it's going to change the way the game's managed, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think at least for early on, I'm going to be looking at a lot of the 5-inning bets, at least with the known quantities of the starting pitchers. I think if I'm going to play an over, I'm looking for a whole game over because of all these bullpens that have this uncertainty. But I think I'm going to try and narrow myself, at least early on, to some 5-inning bets so I know that I'm going to get the starting pitcher.
I did the same thing, by the way. I've got a free play up, and it is a game I like for tomorrow, and it's on a first 5-inning under. I agree with that philosophy. I think unders early and overs full game, and we'll talk about the other aspect of that in a little bit. What do you, Andrew and Tony, what do you guys think?
Tony, with the rule change that we've seen and in the pitchers, how exactly do you change your handicap? There's definitely been a few for me looking at it, and like you guys said, with betting totals, Dave and I were doing it with the Korean baseball. I don't want to mention that too much, but specifically betting first 5s under, and if we wanted an over, looking full game. How do you feel about that theory?
I think you guys are right on top. Spot on as far as that wager goes. I think anyone raise your hand if you didn't at one point in time, or at least at 10 points in time last year, wanted to strangle somebody in the bullpen. Huh? So
well, I actually in the second half of the season, I pretty much gave up on betting full game unders. So it's not really that much of a change in philosophy for me. Right. The other thing, and I think this is obvious. I think the books will adjust for it very quickly. But the extra inning rule it's a nightmare for underbetters because you're looking at situations where I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but it's pretty close to guaranteed. You're going to get 2 runs.
Here's the question I have for you real quickly, Dave, everybody here, and that is this 3-batter rule, the new 3-batter rule for pitchers. Here's the biggest. My first thought was, what happens? Are pitchers, our coaches, going to hesitate telling the umpire, listen, I know he's only pitched to 1, but he's not right. Something's wrong. Does a pitcher put himself in a situation where he injures them worse if he pitches to 1 batter and something's wrong? How many times are we going to see that used logically and honestly, as opposed to maybe a situation where, hey, my guy's not feeling quite right, we got to take him out and then bring someone else in? That the subjectivity in that for the umpires, I think, is a nightmare. I
would hope that the rules committee has made it clear that you better not pull stuff like that.
We'll have to be very, very strict. I'd say have to be very, very strict on these rules, especially with that. I'm curious about the in-game betting on that, guys, the totals wise, heading into extra innings or during that 9th inning. I want to point something out before we get too deep into this show. As you can see on the scrolling banner right below this show, this is now a 7-day-a-week show. This is WagerTalk's first 7-day-a-week show, first pitch daily at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be the host Monday to Friday, and Mid-Major Matt will be hosting, taking the reins on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays.
And I'll be on every day. This was, I may as well brag a little bit here. This was my baby. It's like, wait a minute, we're only doing 5 shows a week. The biggest number of viewers is on weekends for baseball. We have to do a weekend show. So we're going to do 7 days a week, and I might take an occasional day off, but basically I'm going to be on every day.
And we have the chat box here as well. I want to make it very known that I'm the type of host. I want to include the chat box, make them feel known, make their opinions heard. If you have any questions out there in the chat, to all of you, we will save a period of time during the end of the show to answer questions that you guys might have. As far as the crew goes right now, on this show, we have a package deal and a great coupon. You can grab a season package from all 4 of us or each of us for $399 using the coupon code 399MLB. That's one of the best deals you're going to get. This is a show you're going to get great content. It's going to be opinions. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to have some rants. And we're going to talk about, on big slates, we're going to have 5 major matchups and the key matchups and matchups that we chose. We're going to really dive deep into. We're also going to get some DFS stuff going on this show as well. It's a great idea from Dave to have that, maybe some sleepers, some guys that we feel like you should have in your lineup. And then during the end of the show, kind of like how we've done on other shows, we'll run through the remainder of the games a little bit less in depth. You can find Dave on Twitter at Dave Cokin, Tony at Finn at WagerTalk, and Matt at Mid-Major Matt. Without further ado, gentlemen, we'll get into the show. We'll dive right in. First game on tap. First of all, just two great games to start it off. I mean, I love how it's just the 2 games, honestly, because we can focus on them and dive pretty deep in. We have Cole versus Scherzer, Yankees against the Nationals, the defending champs. This is going to be a hell of a game, guys. We got 7.5 as the total in this one. Yankees, around minus 130 favorites, a little bit higher than that at some spots. I'll start with you here, Tony. What are your opening thoughts and reactions when you see these numbers and when you see these teams? One thing I wanted to ask you, based on my reading, if these negotiations didn't take so long, and we had the season obviously when it was expected to start, the lineup would be a little different for the Yankees than it is tonight.
Well, I think the lineup. I'm always curious what the lineup for the Yankees is going to be. Who's all of a sudden injured? Who's not injured? There, I would have to. I don't know the numbers, but you guys might, Dave. Maybe you know the numbers. How many different lineups did the Yankees have last year?
They had an astonishing number of injuries last year. When you consider that and how many games they won, and I know the Astros got rid of them in the playoffs, but they're just loaded. And I hate saying this because I'm a Red Sox fan. I still have allegiance to one team in sports. Well, two, because I like the Golden Knights. But I love the Red Sox. But I mean, so I therefore hate the Yankees. But I mean, they are just packed.
Yeah.
They're so deep, it's scary.
Yes, listen, Yankees and Dodgers. If we're playing a 162 game season, and the National League has the DH, the Dodgers they're just stacked. They're stacked. They can like the Yankees suffer some injuries and really not miss a beat, in my opinion.
And the Yankees added the guy who, at this point, has to be considered the best pitcher in baseball.
Yes.
Garrett Cole,
Yes.
what these numbers he put up.
No, they're stupid.
His last 27 starts. He's got 20 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah.
And the accompanying numbers, Matt, they're microscopic. I mean, he's just that good right now. And so unless he falls off a cliff, and I don't think that's going to happen, the Yankees.
9-year, $324 million.
Yeah.
And I think, it sounds weird to say it, but he's worth it, eh, Matt?
Yeah, and he hasn't had fewer than 10 strikeouts since August of 2019. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Funny stat that I saw along with that, no Yankee pitchers ever struck out 10 or more on opening day in the history of the franchise.
That's amazing.
Yeah, saw that on MLB.com. So, I mean, I think we know what we can expect from him. Obviously, last year, Juan Soto with the 2 homers went 4 for 6 against him. Somebody who could have some success, but of course, this is a slightly different Nats lineup than it was last year in the World Series.
Yeah. By the way,
so go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to mention we're capping this game, but there's a real good chance it won't get played. We should point out the weather is not good in DC today, but hopefully they'll be able to squeeze it in.
Scherzer, a 13-year vet, 2.92 ERA in the 2019 campaign. But from a betting perspective, guys, we're seeing a 7.5 as the total, like I mentioned, off the top. I'll start in reverse order here, Matt. We mentioned, when we were just doing our opening discussions about these totals, looking at possibly first 5 unders and more so first or full game overs. How do you approach this? I mean, we saw the balls flying out of the park in the exhibition. I know it's not the same. We got 2 quality pitchers here. How do you approach this total in this one tonight?
Well, I think I'm shopping around. They're mostly, for the most part, 3.5 for the first 5. I saw 4. Heck, I saw one sportsbook at a 4.5, but heavily juiced to the under.
Really?
I think a lot of people. Yeah, it's. I don't know if we're allowed to say it, so I won't mention the sportsbook. But you look at Scherzer. He got shelled in that last game in the summer camp. So everybody's going to say, "Oh, he doesn't have," but he's a veteran. And I actually looked over his last 2 final spring training starts. He got shelled in each of them.
Yeah, he didn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. In 2019, he gave up 10 hits in 7 innings in his last spring start. This is a guy who's just going out there. He's chucking it. He's just seeing what he can do. The only concern about Scherzer is he's got that juice. He feeds off the crowd. And if he's running out and there's nobody there to give him the energy, does he start slow? Does he build his own energy? That's a question for him.
That's an interesting point. Guys who are adrenaline junkies, if you will, how is this going to impact them? And it really is kind of guesswork. But I think you're right. I think Scherzer is one of those guys who really gets into the excitement that's taking place when there's a full house, and I mean, this would be the perfect spot for him. Ring night, ceremonies galore. Unfortunately, nobody to see it.
How do you approach this total?
I don't like getting involved with 7.5s and therefore the accompanying 4s or 3.5s. I mean, there's just an error, and it's going over, and I don't want to play over with these 2 guys because Cole looks unhittable, and I think Scherzer's going to be fine. I don't put anything into that last outing. He was just getting his pitches in. That's why you take exhibition games with a large granite of salt. The whole canister of salt, not a grain, because a lot of pitchers are just getting their work in, or maybe fiddling around with something they want to work on. It looks like a game where runs are going to be tough to come by early on, though.
Tony, before we get into the sides, from just a totals perspective, with the lack of preseason action and just the quick jump into the season, how does that change your perspective with betting totals?
Well, it changed my perspective on totals, period. Anyway, is always I don't do a lot of totals early. I wait for in past years in April, if I'm playing totals, the weather typically for my first lean is to the under, always, and depending on where you are, obviously, unless you got a ceiling or a roof over your head. I didn't even look at these totals because it's just something that's not part of my schedule in April until mid-April at minimum. Tonight, I have to be honest with you guys. I would agree with everything that was just said. Here's the deal with Scherzer, guys. Scherzer 3 years ago, he's a guy who could pitch through injury. He might have a bad hammy. He might have, what was it? When he won his second consecutive Cy, guys, he was injured that whole season. There was something nagging.
You could see him at times stumbling off the mound and wincing.
Yes.
But the guy he's such a tough SOB that it's like, I'm not coming out. I'm staying in and just battle.
At 55 years old now, can he fight through injuries? And he will not. Listen, how many times have you heard him say, I'm truly 100%. I'm ready to go. And he's not close. He's not going to tell us. Not going to tell the coaches. That's who he is, as Dave just said. He's a tough SOB. I think right now, I mean, he's not 100%. In spring training, I think this probably did him some good. In spring training, he was already suffering through some injuries that took him out of some of his work. We'll see.
Guys, Dave and I did an interview with a Korean baseball reporter. He's one of the only English-speaking reporters, and he was speaking to us about the differences in the league. And the reason why I bring this up is for the MLB, he was talking about it being kind of a strikeout, home run, or walk type of league. And that's the problem.
It's a three true outcomes.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, right now. You talk about these 7.5s that you're not comfortable with, and we can talk about how dangerous this Yankees lineup. I mean, oh boy, like looking at the slate right now, I'm looking at it, and the Nationals as well, guys. But we get one or two guys on base for the Yankees, and all of a sudden we get a blast, and this total is completely changed.
Oh yeah, and that's why 7.5 is so scary. Plus the fact that, and I know that. Listen, the Yankees do have on paper a very good bullpen, but bullpens, and we've already talked about this, they were not as volatile as KBO, which is, I mean, the bullpens there are a train wreck, but they were extremely volatile last year, which is why, and Matt, you mentioned this earlier, come mid-season, I gave up on playing full game unders. I was just having too many games that were 2-2 in the seventh inning, and I ended up losing them. It's like, okay, if I like a game under, I'm sticking with the first 5. By the way, got to mention a few guys in the chat. Ski Prophet, Hakeem, you want some good basketball analysis. This guy's amazing. And Johnny Detroit's in there, and Johnny is one of the guys who puts this all together for everybody at WagerTalk.
Yeah, packed live chat right now, 177 live viewers. We appreciate you guys all for joining and tuning in. Have to mention that as much as I can. Once again, this is a 7-day-a-week show. If you have not heard that already, I'm super excited about it. I'm excited for WagerTalk, excited for everybody handicapping the MLB with this company. It's going to be a blast. And, just got to give a quick hats off, during the pause in major sports because MLB is back. WagerTalk did an outstanding job producing content in every way, shape, or form during the break, whether it was interviews with handicappers, whether it was Carmine Bianco doing his cooking videos, whatever it was, they were finding a way to put out some content, guys. So, love to see that. Happy to have Ski Profit, Johnny Detroit. We got Alex. So many guys in this chat box. Before we switch off to the next game, guys, anybody interested in fading Cole tonight? I don't think I am. That's for sure.
I'm not that gutsy to begin with at my age, and I'm sure not courageous enough to do that.
By the way, one other thing to bring up here, the rosters are at 30. So, I saw the Phillies roster. They have 16 pitchers. So, people are going to be burning pitchers left and right here. And so, I have to find out how these...
They can, but and this is why I'm a little bit curious as to why they're carrying 16 pitchers. You've got the 3-hitter minimum rule.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea of, I'm just going to mix and match in the 6th inning and get through this with 3 different pitchers, you can't do that. So... I will tell you, I expect at least a decent number of the managers to completely screw this up. I have never held them as the brightest brain trust in the world anyway. And I can see some massive screw-ups here with the 3-pitcher minimum.
Also, no Chapman for a little while for the Yankees. So that'll definitely change things late in the game, possibly, although they do have pretty deep pitching staff. We'll move forwards, guys. Dodgers, Giants. This is the game that was on the thumbnail of this video, and I think it's just a marquee matchup. It's going to be awesome. These two teams do not like each other whatsoever. I mean, I love rivalry games, honestly. Yeah. I'm the kind of guy that can get up for any game. I can find a reason to get interested and sit down and watch, whether it's the two worst teams in the league. I'm an all-around sports fan. I wanted to mention something that Ralph Michaels did, because Ralph is just outstanding. The stats that he does, the work that he puts in, the time and effort that he puts in, guys. He was talking about pitchers that had success with their first start of the season on opening day. Tony, Johnny Cueto, 5-0, last 5 first starts of the season. This might be kind of a redundant question, but how serious do we take that? And also against a team like the Dodgers?
Well, first thing you have to take into consideration is this, and that is if you have a history, a good, long, solid history of opening day performances, you're probably too old to be in the league. So that's Cueto. That's Cueto's numbers are who Cueto used to be. And this is the Dodgers, guys. I listen, this San Francisco team is just not very good. They're not very good. And
I just got to jump in because I saw Mike Krukow was on for the High Heat, the Chris Russo show on MLB Network today. And I love these guys because he's an ex-player, and he's still got that. It's the difference between players and handicappers. We look at the Giants and we know they're just bad, but he's talking. Everybody's optimistic. They can't wait to get the season going. The guys are walking around with an air of confidence, and it's like we look at the Giants roster and it's like, I don't care how confident they are. They're not very good.
And I'm not going to sit here and say Kershaw isn't great on opening days as well, Matt. What do you think about this pitching matchup overall? Two quality guys, but I still give the edge, honestly, full team wise, and overall, obviously based off the line, to the Dodgers here.
Well, and Cueto, his last time out on Tuesday, only threw 60 pitches, and he's talked about he's not ready for a full workload. So if he goes 3 or 4. There's mention that a starting pitcher could piggyback him. I've, as a Phillies fan, I had to watch the Gabe Kapler experience the last 2 years. He's a guy who burns through bullpens. He mismanages bullpens. He lives off the book. I think I expect a mess on the Dodger side or the Giants side for now, because I don't think Cueto's going to go that deep. I just think that we're going to see a bunch of pitchers tonight, especially if he gets rocked early.
Definitely, and that's easily what could happen with this, guys. We saw the numbers changing all week. I mean, we've seen numbers posted for these two games for quite a long time here. We see a lot of people, and Dave and I always discuss overusing the term value. We hear that just so many people love to use that, Tony, and everyone has their own way of using it. But I want to ask you, because I've never actually worked with you and been on a video with you. Do you set any numbers that you don't want to go past or anything like that? Or it's just straight up, I like this spot, trying to get the best number. Right now, we're seeing a pretty high number, even on the run line for the Dodgers.
That's a hybrid. That's a trick question, because value matters. Everything we do is based on numbers, especially if you're in this long term. However, there are certain situations. If you're like Dave's a Red Sox fan, if you're a Yankee fan and you're a gamer, just listen, you need to have an extra job just to cover the added, the inflated price that you're going to pay when you bet the Yankees, when you bet the Red Sox. You're paying an inflated price. Sometimes you have to just buck that and say, listen, this is a great situation. I know I'm paying 30 cents more than I should be, but I'm all in.
By the way, we're seeing a lot of notes in chat that Soto for the Nationals is there you go.
There it is. Yeah. There's
Dave. It's actually the Washington baseball team. That's how they're referred to now.
That's the football team is going to actually call themselves that this year? The Washington football team?
Yes, that is.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they just announced.
Kidding. I know. I'm just kidding. I'll still call them the Snyder Snots. Go ahead.
Look, guys, quite a bit of a lineup here for the Dodgers here. We obviously know one big name that they acquired. You want to dive into that, Dave?
Mookie. And I know the Red Sox could have paid him. Actually, the Red Sox couldn't pay him because they really were intent on locking up Devers and Bogarts and a great left side of the infield for a long time, which they're going to do. They couldn't pay another $300-something million. The Dodgers did. The Dodgers have him locked up. I think that most of these contracts that are this long are negative return in the long run, but I don't think that's going to be necessarily be the case with Mookie because he ain't that old. and he's got a really well-rounded game. It's just a great score for this team, and their lineup right now is just daunting. There are no excuses. Literally, there are no excuses for this team not to win the National League this year. Anything can happen in the World Series, but I got to tell you, if Dave Roberts can't get him to the World Series, then he'll be out at the end of the year.
I can't believe he's still there, in my opinion. I mean, Jansen's an issue for this team. If there's an issue for this Dodgers team, the fact that Roberts just hands over the keys to the mansion, to the house, to the car, to the Lamborghini, whatever it is, and says, it's yours, with the talent they have and the players they have, I think it's a mistake.
Well, that's not I can't pin on Roberts, because I talked about this endlessly last year. Doing the daily radio show, which I don't do anymore. Which is that for all the money the Dodgers were spending, they refused to address the bullpen issue. And Jansen wasn't right last year. He had health issues. He does appear to be fine this spring or this summer. But they didn't really have what I thought were quality guys in front of them. They were guys that were on one night and off the next. And when you're going to spend that much money and have that great of a lineup as they had, you got to make sure that you've got guys who can pitch the 7th and 8th inning, and they did.
And I want to interrupt here real quick, Dave. One of the things I watch a lot, we out here, Dave, you might be one of those. I watch a lot of Dodgers baseball. I watch a lot.
Unfortunately, I can't say I watch a lot of Dodgers baseball because they're basically until I think they're going to be on this summer, but until
the blackout. Yeah, well, we get around.
Where are you going to find them?
I mean, you can get them on live feeds, but we'll get that to maybe another program. But here's the situation, and situation is the word. This Dodgers team might be the worst situational hitting team. And Roberts, I don't know why they don't address it, but these guys are at the. And I know Peterson and these guys have long, beautiful swings, but this team is the worst situation. If there's a guy on second base and there's no way out, they're still swinging for the fences. They are Earl Weaver. A couple bloops and a bomb. Let's get our 3 runs and let a pinch hit do the rest. I couldn't trust this Dodgers team to manufacture a run under Dave Roberts.
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to sit here and let you bash the guy who stole second base in 2004 and paved the way for the greatest comeback in the history of sports. Dave Roberts is a god to anybody from New England.
I'm not from New England.
That's your problem.
I'm not from part of my DNA came to Ellis Island, but I didn't stick around very long.
Seeing each other every day, I can tell already this show is going to get we're gonna get some laughs, we're gonna get some back and forth going. So I'm gonna announce right now, my job is gonna be I'll call myself mediator. I'll just try and step in, point the directions, direct some traffic in this one, guys. I know baseball isn't a sport kind of like basketball or hockey or football where it's like a team sport all going at once, but on the topic of this Dodgers team, the bullpen, they're just a team right now. I feel like they're going to be heavily reliant on that really powerful lineup late in games. They've got some good starters, but would you guys say that there's a certain number of runs they might have to get in each?
Well, it was a great question, but I don't know why you stopped it midstream.
What happened there? Yeah,
Andrew froze on us. Hopefully he'll be back in a couple of seconds. But to expand on this a little bit, some of it is Roberts. I think he's overmanaged at times. You know what I mean? And sometimes managers have a tendency to do that, to play the chess game to such an extent that they just overmanage and end up making mistakes. That's a negative. He's been on the job a long time, and he's got such a good roster this year. It's basically just go out there and let him play, and don't screw it up, right, Tony?
But that's tough. That's a difficult task to do. Look, did we lose our host? He disappeared.
Yeah, that's all right. We can get by without him.
Okay,
yeah, but
I'm back, guys. I'm back. I apologize. I just wanted to ask you guys about team totals. If any of you guys are team total bettors. Yeah. And if you're looking towards that specifically with the Dodgers team, it takes away the other team, takes away any intangibles, and we're just worried about one team.
I dabble in the team totals, but I'm more likely to go to the team totals where I see a pitcher who's going to hold somebody down. Like I saw the Giants team total was 2.5 tonight. Now that's too little for me to want to get involved. But if I see a really good pitcher going against a bad offense, I'm more apt to take an under than an over for a really good offense.
Yeah, I would agree with that philosophy. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I'm not in this game. I didn't play the game. I didn't really have any intention of laying that kind of a price. I think the Dodgers are going to win, but I also want to see what Kershaw brings to the table because he did decline last year, not to the point where he's suddenly a number 4 starter, but I'm not sure he's a number 1 starter anymore either. And this is the one fly in the ointment for the Dodgers.
Yeah,
their starting pitching could be a little bit of an issue come playoff time. I don't think it'll matter over the course of 60 games, Matt. They're just so loaded that, and then, I don't think there's anybody in the division who can realistically beat them. But in the playoffs, I wonder if the power arms are going to be there. That to me, if you're a Dodger fan, that's where the concern really begins.
Well, and you mentioned Kershaw. I was looking up some stats. His last 51 starts in April and March, he's 18-16. His last 53 July starts, he's 33-7. Are we getting July Clayton Kershaw because it's actually July, or are we getting the April one?
Well, look at his opening day numbers. His opening day numbers are outstanding. That's the one thing with Kershaw.
But is this opening day?
Well, it is for us.
Well, I know, but I don't know. Everything's so weird in 2020. I'll be honest with you. I basically tossed all the past performance charts. I'll look and see how they stack up after the games and whether there's any correlation. But I think this is just going to be seat of your pants handicapping. And one thing I do want to throw in, and I think because it's a 60-game sprint, look for the favorites. I think this is going to be a big 60-game run for the favorites because over 162 games, teams take games off. You'll see good teams on Sunday rest 4 regulars. You're not going to see that in a 60-game sprint.
60
How
games.
about that load management stuff? How about that with baseball? How are we going to see that load management stuff this year?
None. There will be no load management.
You could take your catchers and DH them. Like I expect Realmuto to play all 60 games for the Phillies.
Hey, Madison Bumgarner, isn't he going to be the DH for Arizona when he's not pitching?
Not really. But I mentioned this. Christian Yelich will probably DH twice a week for the Brewers so they can play him every day.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. This is a real big advantage to some National League teams who have a power guy that they want in the lineup every day but don't want playing defense every day.
Yeah.
So let's go back for a second. We kind of glossed over it. The Soto news is kind of big news both for tonight and for futures because obviously this is the first show people are putting futures in. I mean, so the protocol is if he tests positive, so he's out for 2 weeks now. What's the clarification here?
Yes.
Well, it's big because the one break for the Nationals is that the Mets pitching staff is just on a train wreck right now with the injuries, and I think the Mets are in trouble. But you've got 2 other really good teams. That the Braves, I think the Phillies are going to be improved, and this could really hurt the Nationals. Even that's the thing. That's the big difference between 60 and 162. 162, the guy's out for 2 weeks. Like, okay, big deal. 60 games, he's out for a quarter of the schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge.
Have you heard anybody talking? I've read about it a little bit, but there's no replacing Rendon. And
no.
If people don't understand how important he was to that offense, go back to the first month of the season last year for the Nationals. This is not the same Nationals team as last year, and I agree with today. They're not even close to being the best team in the Nationals.
I think Atlanta's better than they are in that division.
Yeah.
And the Phillies could be too, especially if Zach Wheeler's the 2 and then they figure out a 3. What if Spencer Howard becomes their 3 and then they've got a very good top 3 themselves because Noel's got to be better than he was last year.
Oh, you need to work on that bullpen in Philly is what you need.
Yeah, guys, I've popped in and out. I apologize for that. I truly do. I want to point out because it's really important. WagerTalk TV is almost to 50,000 subscribers. This channel has not been alive for that many years. To be almost at 50,000 subscribers is outstanding. Appreciate all of the viewers out there tuning in. If you are watching this video right now, whether it's Periscope, YouTube, you appreciate the content that we all do, free content now 7 days a week, hit the subscribe button. I mean, it's all we're really asking. We're not asking you to pay for anything, to do anything. We're here giving out picks. Hit the subscribe button. We are almost to 50,000 subscribers on this channel. And the graphic right there, if you do want to grab premium plays from all four of us, myself, Tony, and Dave at WagerTalk.com, Matt at SportsMemo.com, for $399, you can get every single one of our plays released to clients for the whole entire season, including the playoffs, using coupon code 399MLB. Guys, free picks is what everyone came for in this chat. Of course, some discussion as well. We saw an 8.5, not a 7.5 as the total in the Dodgers game. Can I get some leans, some picks from either of you? Dave, I'll start with you.
I didn't do anything. I'm blank today. I don't want to guess at something that I don't have a good feel for. So, but I will mention this. It's a little promotion. If you want a free best bet, there's one up right now in a game tomorrow. And I think there's an extra little added angle if you read the analysis that will help. And I also have a 4% best bet up for sale for $25. And those are games I actually like and will bet on. I'm not betting anything today. So, if you want me to guess at something, the way the Dodgers have already been obliterating the baseball in these lead-in games, I ain't betting an under with them anytime soon.
Mid-major Matt. Find them at sportsmemo.com. We know you have a package up with your clients, but show purposes, we have 2 games to select. What do you have for us in this Dodgers game? Obviously, like Dave said, they're putting up some runs. What are you thinking in this game?
Well, I think I would probably go with the cliche run line for the Dodgers tonight. I mean, I think the lead's going to be big enough that it's not going to matter if their bad bullpen comes in. I will say this. I know we're going to do more DFS stuff tomorrow. Seager's got 3 home runs off of Cueto. He's a guy I'm going to get my lineups tonight. And the only guy who's had success on the Giants, because most websites are going to make you put a Giant probably in there. Wilmer Flores is 5 for 16 against Clayton Kershaw. I don't love any of them, but he's probably going to be cheap enough that you can fit in as many Dodgers and Yankees as you want tonight.
And the good news is if Flores makes an error, if he's playing the field, that doesn't go against you. And he can make some errors.
2 great matchups, Tony, in this one. We said we weren't really going to try and fade Cole. What are you thinking for this Dodgers game? Is there anything that really catches your eye?
Well, listen, guys, and I mean never do I bet home teams on the run line. I don't care if I just don't do it. And you'll never see me give it to my clients. But tonight, I'm not going to give it out, but I might just bet the Dodgers at home on the run line. I'm only laying about 30 cents juice on the 1.5. So that in this game, I might just for fun do such. But strike me dead if I ever give that.
And for those who don't understand why, you don't get the bottom of the 9th if you're up by 1 run. It's as simple as that.
It's 3. You got to win by 2, and you get 3 less at bats. That's doomsday.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a big deal, especially and when you're looking at these in-game wagers, because I know a lot of guys in the chat definitely do in-game as well. That's factored into those odds, and that's factored into the handicap with the run line. You can find Matt Josephs on Twitter at midmajor Matt, Tony at Finn at WagerTalk, Dave at Dave Cokin. Tomorrow, plenty more games to go over. This is the first episode of First Pitch Season 2. Plenty more to come. 7 days a week for this show. Hit the like button. Let us know what you thought of the video. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we are about 500 subscribers away from 50,000 on this channel. For Dave Cokin, for Tony, for Matt.
I want to mention one thing.
Andrew McInnis.
One thing.
Go ahead.
I want to tease this because tomorrow we've already decided on the 3 games we're going to really get in depth on. Mm-hmm. We're going to get into the Twins-White Sox game. We're going to get into the Diamondbacks-Padres game. And we're going to get into the Angels-A's game, but we will have info on all the games in the schedule. But 3 interesting games we're really going to feature tomorrow.
Insider info from Dave.
From
Dave, the legend Cokin.
I'm the one who picks the games, so it's not insider.
So you better have some info, Dave?
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for your time. Everyone out there in the chat box, we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, 7 days a week. You know where to find us, WagerTalk TV. Good luck with your bets. Happy opening day.